Well, hello everyone. I have right here. I'm talking about the bird nest right here, bird nest laws right here, and you see this right here. It looks like is the idea is about the birds hatching right here. With the eggs hatching, and you see this right here. I talk about with the birds right here, and you see this right here that I went ahead and drew right here, example right here of little birdies inside the nest right there, and you're thinking as toward okay, yeah, that. So, what sorts of idea do you think that that really gives you whenever it comes to understanding about birds, about whenever the eggs hatch, and of course, whenever it comes to understanding about what that usually means whenever the eggs hatch a lot of times, and people might say, yeah, well, for sure that but yeah, you begin to wonder toward it, reading up about those stories about whenever the eggs hatch, and then you see little birdies inside the nest right there. So, what sorts of ideas do you think that that really tells you whenever you see stuff like that, and whenever you see a bird nest, and if you have any ideas about what that usually means right there, and everybody might even say that, yeah, well, I know exactly what it means. It means it's about maybe 3 weeks or so since laying the eggs, and knowing what all that means whenever it comes to whenever the eggs hatch, and then the little birdies are wanting their attention and all that. But still, that but the way I think about it too, that I went ahead and colored in right here, an example right here of these birdies right here, and people might say that yeah, after the eggs hatch, and then you see this right here of shown right here with the birdies right here, and but I used to always think too that what does it usually mean whenever you do draw a picture of that of the birdies right there, and thinking as toward okay, yeah, that part of this part right here is white right here, but still that if you were to see any spots where it contains color right here, and you're thinking as toward while you're painting this picture right here, while you're drawing the picture, that is this supposed to kind of give you any ideas about what color you want to work with, and maybe as far as anything to kind of explain the story a little bit more right there, but still. So whenever the eggs do hatch, and you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah. So whenever the eggs do hatch, whenever the baby birds are going to be coming out and all, are going to be hatching, and thinking as toward, okay, yeah, that. So it sure seems that way that when we talk about the birds right here, and you're thinking is that okay, yeah, that so those birds are going to maybe stick around for about how long? For about at least is it 10 days or something like that? Maybe at least 2 weeks before they fly up, or something like that. But still, talk about the story about the birdies, right? But still, I'll tell everybody that whenever you do read the story about the birds in the bird nest right here, a lot of times, people might say that it's usually about up to 5 weeks that it takes it where by the time the eggs hatch, and by the time that the birds are able to fly off on their own and all that. And so you want to know too that besides the story of the three little pigs, that you would see that about talk about the story about the birds. And you're thinking, okay, about how long does usually take between the time that they hatch and the time that they start growing wings? Yeah, they got their wings and they start flying off on their own. And but still, so you got the birdies right here, but I kept thinking as toward, okay, so yeah, you go ahead and paint the pictures of the birds right there, but still, you're thinking as too is toward, okay, yeah, that you paint the birds right there, but then you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, those birds look quite cute inside in the nest right there. So if they're going to be in the nest right there, and you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, but still, you get the idea of that or whichever. But on the other hand, too, that whenever you do see that, the first thing to think about is that, okay, yeah, if you want to try to get a picture of that just to see what's going on right there. But people might say that, yeah, that, whenever you do see that, by the way, it sure seems that way toward it, yeah. So, what do you really learn about looking at the birds, for how they lay their eggs and then how they hatch and all that? And so, if you were to write a paper talking about stuff like that, do you think, in general, that maybe that they would say is toward it, you actually want to see what's going on with why that the bird builds its nest and whenever the eggs hatch and whenever the eggs hatch and all that. But still, you begin to wonder toward it, okay, yeah, are they going to ask you to go ahead and write a paper about it? And they're going to maybe ask you to go ahead and include what kind of birds these are, if they're robin or, like you said, they're going to ask you to write a paper about it, and also they're going to maybe ask you to word it, please explain what you see right here. What type of birds they are, where did they come from, and where they hibernate at, and what type of food did they eat, or something like that. And so you begin to wonder that yeah, you have an idea of maybe what type of birds they are, or not, but at the same time that people might say that, yeah, well, you would like to actually look at the birds, but you're not exactly sure what type of birds they are. People might even say that, okay, do you even know what type of birds they are? Like, well, look like that they're robin kind of birds. They're robins, but on the other hand, that I think everybody might say that, yeah, well, you go ahead and put together a story right here of the bird right here, but then at the same time, you're wanting to know too that why can't you just get a puzzle piece put together like a puzzle? Like, yeah, you got the bird right here flying around, but still, that if you have any idea of what you would like to add to that picture right there, but like everybody might say that does that really explain the whole story right there toward it? That the bird decides to build its nest right here and after the eggs have hatched. But in case of anybody's wondering about that Easter story, to where that you see that there's baby birds inside the nest right there, but still that you begin to wonder toward it, yeah, if that's really all there is. So I'm like, yeah, it's about 5 weeks that it takes for the birds to hatch and for the mom to raise the bird to where the birds are able to fly off on their own and all that. But still, you know, in case if anybody's wondering that to where that yeah, you see the birds like that. But I kept thinking as to where if I were to go ahead and draw this picture right here and maybe 5 or maybe 7 pages altogether about how the nest was built and where the birds go after they grow up and after they're able to fly away on their own and you just to kind of do a story to where that explains a little bit about what this is right here and what this means and what that means right there. But still, that people may want to know too that you see baby birds inside the nest right there, and you're warned toward any ideas of what you think that's going on about the type of birds they are and what does it usually mean whenever they have their mouth open like that, and maybe you know whenever it rains or maybe anything else like that. But still, usually it's about maybe 5 weeks before the birds are capable, after they hatch and all. But still, that you begin to wonder toward it. You look at the birds right there, and you're thinking, is it toward? Okay, do you have any idea of what type of birds they are and what exactly that they're doing in the nest right there? What does that mean whenever the birds do this? What does it mean when the birds do that? But I, on the other hand, would think too is toward if you actually looked at the birds, you want to know too that okay, yeah, with the bird, right here, I'll go and copy this right here. And people might say that, you could go ahead and explain a little bit about what you're talking about, but usually between the hours of around morning time see the birds right here, but I'm like, yeah, you go ahead and draw the bird right there, and you're thinking as to where you got the baby birds right there, and put right there. See if I want to rotate that, but yeah. So, do you have any idea of the type of birds they are? And people might even say that you go ahead and draw in the details right there about you got mother bird right here along with baby bird right here. If you have any idea about what all that means right there, they all get together in a group and maybe if they go for a swim or something like that. But still, you know, everybody might say that if that's really how it works, is that whenever the birds are they're in season for the spring and you're warned toward oh okay yeah, so about maybe 8 pages or so explaining about what type of birds they do, what do they do whenever they do hatch, and like you said that if you have any ideas about what you want to put together to explain the story about the birds, the baby birds and then the mother bird right here. But still, I kept thinking too as to where that yeah, you want to draw a story about the birds right here. That okay, these are what the birds do whenever they're in town for the season or something like that. But still, why do you think that maybe that they also use that as an example of a clock? But still, that you wonder that if it's a robin's bird or if it's just any sort of blue bird or a hummingbird or some bird like that. But still, you go ahead and draw a picture right there, and you're thinking as to where that yeah. One thing about the birdies though, the different colors, especially. So whenever I put the bird nest right there, and you're thinking as to where, oh, okay, yeah. A lot of times you like looking at the colors of the birds. You got the different colors of the birds right here, especially if it's a robin. And you're thinking is that, yeah, you want to put this together right here if it's supposed to explain any sort of story about that. This is how the birds hibernate and then how they migrate on. But anyway, I thought I'd go ahead and talk about that. Thanks for watching.